What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review. And this one's really interesting I think it's probably the first collaboration I think we've gone over.
Yeah.
I initially thought this was a split, and
I did too.
Was wrong. But we're going to go over the recent collaboration between Primitive Man and Full of Hell. Suffocating Hallucination. Very accurate descriptor for this split. This also comes out on the 3rd of March on Closed Casket Activities. As for when these bands formed, Full of Hell formed in 2009 in both Maryland and Pennsylvania, and Primitive Man formed in 2012 in Colorado. Again, this is a collaborative effort, so they're kind of both interweaving their styles, which their styles are similar in the fact that they both love noisy soundscapes. But they're also very different in the fact that one band moves slower than a geriatric slug, and the other one moves about as fast as a squirrel on methamphetamines. So that's about the only difference. Both of them love scathing dissonance and twisted atmosphere. And believe me, we got a healthy dose of that on here.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that this is mostly more familiar to Primitive Man, like just in terms of the overall pace, tone, vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely not speedy except for maybe one or two parts. I think Full of Hell contributes more so on the vocal aspect than they do on the musical forefront.
As if the vocals needed help being horrifying.
Yeah, Primitive Man as it stands.
Yeah. Ethan has a giant fucking voice. It's this massive roar that somehow carries over the layers of distant, droning riffs and feedback.
Which makes sense as Ethan is a giant individual.
Yes, that man is huge, and his presence is definitely felt on stage. And then Dylan from Full of Hell is scathing screams and just horrifying as hell. And blending them together, well, that's a whole new depressing, disturbing monster. Because man, this is just so goddamn dark. Like, I knew it would be, but
full of primitive hell men.
Yeah, no, they were all invited, and they all played the darkest, heaviest shit. I don't know if I've heard from both bands, but man, this is a hell of a combination of just horrifying music.
Mm-hmm.
Before I even sat down and listened to this, the first sentence I wrote in terms of my review was, I expect all the joy to be squeezed from my body like an orange during this listen. And I was pretty much right. And it's odd that the first track, I didn't even notice that the first track is called Trepidation for Future Joys. Neither one of these bands have any business using the word joy, because this is just dark.
Unless they take joy in removing the joy of others.
Oh, dude, this was like ripped from my fucking body. Like,
yeah.
Wow. Opens with these just, like, it's almost atonal, isolated guitars. Like, they don't necessarily even sound like they're in tune.
They sound ill.
Yeah, they sound like these guitars have given up. Like, ironically, they're done experiencing joy whatsoever. Like, yeah, this is it. But you get these heavy accents, and my God, dude, the bass tone on here is just, it sounds like it's deep fried. Like they deep fried the bass while playing it. It sizzles, it crackles. I think they sacrificed an amp for every song. And, you know, if the amp actually made it through the song, I don't know, man, because everything is just so layered and dense and heavy. It's absolutely suffocating.
I mean, picture the angriest you've ever been, and then multiply that by like 100.
And slow it down to like a beat a week.
Yeah, it's something else. And I knew it would be. You know, when we, a couple years ago, first got introduced to Primitive Man,
wow.
I knew that this would be a devastating listen, and they don't sell that short.
No, and live, just beware. It's one of the heaviest, most trance-inducing things. But I like how this song builds. Like, it builds in intensity. Like, it starts off slower than hell, but it does pick up like a bit of speed. It kind of turns into this almost like trance-inducing, hypnotic drone with like almost a tribal percussion behind it. And the vocal layering, man, did that really set off the fucking vibe too. Because the high screams in here really just kind of add a whole other level of misery, as if they needed more misery in Primitive Man. But there are sections where like they kind of push the vocals back, but it sounds like dude's trying to talk while he's chewing on something through a broken PA on like a drive-through that no one's visited in a long time. Actually, it's probably a ghost on the other end. The drive-through is fucking haunted. That's the only explanation.
I want a bacon cheese.
You will get hell. But it's this like alternating like bellows and screams. I don't know, like vocally that added a lot. I mean, of course you have like the most scathing guitar tone. Like it's barely even playing like chords. Like you get some big down-picked chugs every now and then.
I think it's more just to set the atmosphere. I think whatever they're running through that, I don't know what all the filters are. I'm not a guitar player, but like it's got to be just simply kind of just down tuned, just
yeah.
Okay.
Dude, this whole album runs like the soundtrack for a trilogy of snuff films. Like, not just one. A whole trilogy, and don't worry, every cast member dies. My horror was pretty much peaked at the song Dwindling Will.
Yeah, that's not even really a song, so to speak. Picture Hagbalbia.
God, fucking Hagbalbia. I swear to God, it came back. Like, this is just Hagbalbia, the short film. It's the same levels of just noise and atmosphere and creepiness. I think they do it better than Hagbalbia, just because there's like waves of it. Like there's sections in it that you can pick out.
Right, and they add things like builds. Even though the build doesn't really go anywhere, things intensify, and like the volume comes up, and the chaos ensues, and like there's that part where you get the whispered voices, and then it turns into kids laughing, and this creepy melody, and like you're like, what the fuck? But whereas, you know, Portal just kind of makes it just this weird soundscape, this actually has like a crescendo, so to speak.
It does. And it's absolutely horrifying. Like, you know, like this is sleep with the lights on forever music. It's very just unsettling. Layers and layers of just horror. Like it does sound like the score to a horror movie. If I was the main character in this one, I wasn't sure if I was going to be buried alive or just hurled into cold, dead space, but pretty sure I'm fucked. Like, I literally question why they aren't scoring horror films.
I wonder that. I think that a lot of this is far more horrifying than most music you get in the background of horror movies. Like, this is void of light and warmth, and it's just dark, and it's increasingly scary, and they just know how to create these massive fucking soundscapes of doom, depression.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And, I mean, it's a smaller dose, again, than Hagbalbia. It's about 7 minutes, but it does kind of go on a bit long. Like, I mean, you know, my will might have been dwindling to listen to it, but my patience was definitely dwindling at a certain point. And how it carries on to the last track, Tunnel of God, which honestly is my favorite track, but also, again, a very strange one. This one continues on with the ambience, but it's a little bit warmer but still spooky. It's like Tangerine Dream, except all the members are now Cenobites and they're all covered with pins and fucking hooks and shit. But also synthesizers that are probably like stapled to their bodies or something. I don't know. There's a lot of weird visuals that I kind of picked up on this.
Check out this tone.
I mean, Suffocating Hallucinations. I might have had some. Now, this droning ambience carries on for quite a while, and then
4 minutes.
Yeah, 4 minutes. And then you start hearing cymbals. And then you hear cymbals for like another 2.5.
By the time it hits 4 minutes, you get that's when that gross, like, snarling bass tone starts.
Yeah.
And it drones on for a minute, and then by the time you hit 5, you get these like post-metal drums.
Yeah, that was honestly one of the most interesting transitions on this entire album, because again, the cymbals start and they're just kind of just like not really playing a time, they're just kind of hitting them, like kind of creating this din, this extra layer of atmosphere as if they needed more. But what feels like weeks later, the bass comes in and you get to hear it isolated. And again, this is the most deep-fried, disgusting, broken fucking amp, broken speaker sizzle I think I've heard on a bass. And it's an absolutely disgusting, well, kind of notable riff. Like, it's
Yeah.
an actual riff.
Yeah.
But as the bass comes in, it slowly gets louder, and then the horrific din of synths starts slithering back down into hell. And you get this cymbal and, bass run, and then all of a sudden the drums kick in. And then this turns into quite possibly the most melodic song on here. Melodic.
Song.
But, I mean, it is. It has a distinct melody. There's a cool, like, ascending and descending, droning tremolo riff to it. You have the big droning riffs behind it. And, honestly, it just sounds like a more tormented version of, like, Cult of Luna or Neurosis. Or maybe even Cave In at their most depressing. Actually, maybe Old Man Gloom. Maybe Old Man Gloom instead.
Ooh,
yeah. The noisy soundscapes kind of work well with that. But honestly, I was kind of surprised. Like, this might be the most melodic I've heard from both bands. Melodic. I'm not saying this is like a pretty song. Like, oh, that's pleasant. Nothing's pleasant
pretty
on here.
here.
There's nothing pleasant.
It's
on here.
all dead. It's all frozen or on fire.
Stamped out.
Things melting and the
beaten with a shovel and buried in a shallow grave.
The vocals on Tunnel to God are I get it. Worse Than Hell is the Tunnel to God.
But I do like the fact that this is, still at that same level of misery and depression and horrific everything that both these bands do so well, but it's a little bit more musical. I think this is kind of missing like discernible melodies, but that isn't kind of what you sign up for with either one of these bands. I mean, to be fair, I think Full of Hell's Trumpeting Ecstasy has got some damn catchy riffs on it.
It does.
But, I mean, it's still noisy, it's still ugly, and it's still ferocious as hell, and this is definitely that.
I mean, that's why I came here, for this.
Yeah. And in terms of Full of Hell, in terms of, like, their influence or their sound, there's only, like, really two moments. Rubble Home is another, like, slow progression of just droning, disgusting riffs and noise. And then you have this blast beat frenzy that kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, and we're talking, like, 10 seconds or less of just grind, blah, and then it's over.
Yeah. It kind of skitters out, too. It's kind of an odd transition.
And then we have Bludgeon, which is literally 25 seconds of grind. It's just that.
Yeah.
Yep. Bludgeon. Yep.
I literally wrote, grind fit in 25 seconds, fuck your eardrums. Yeah, that's accurate. I kind of wanted to hear more of a blend of the two. Like, I don't know, like maybe pick up some stuff a little bit more mid-tempo, because honestly, the bulk of this feels more like Primitive Man than anything else. Like, if this was just billed as Primitive Man, I would totally believe that it's just Primitive Man and, like, none of the guys from Full of Hell were involved. Now, I have to praise the production here in terms of what they're going for. Like, they wanted the noisiest, ugliest thing possible. They got it, and I think they got the right guy. Arthur Risk did this.
Okay,
and
well,
yeah.
There you go.
It makes a lot of sense. It is wall-to-wall just ugly. Like, it's sonically inescapable. It's a fucking black hole of misery. And yeah, you're pretty much on the event horizon, which I think is where the studio was located, where they wrote this or performed this or whatever. I don't know. I don't think they were locked away in any place pleasant while they did this. There were no smiles. They weren't allowed. This was just horrifying from start to finish.
Hit my balls with a meat cleaver. All right. Now turn on the microphone.
Now, show me a picture of my dead dog.
So in closing for me, I give this record a 3. That's not a bad thing. To me, Primitive Man and I guess Full of Hell together, the culmination of the two, it more so than songs, it's just more of a mindfuck. It kind of harkens back to what the title is, Suffocating Hallucination. Layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of sound and noise and vocals, and even when there's not guitars, the like dwindling will, just it's just the whole thing is just like, man, just I don't want to go to sleep ever again. It wasn't bad. It's just it really kind of just plays with your mind. I think that is all that this is meant to be. I like that. I like that about both of these bands. I fucking love Primitive Man and Full of Hell. But together, this is a real kind of just shift into dark, horrifying wherever. Production for what it is, I mean, I can just picture everybody sitting in the studio and twisting knobs going, does this sound horrifying? Ooh, how about this? Ooh, oh, that's gross. Oh, push record.
I think you broke it.
Yeah.
Record it anyway.
But I mean, it's a definite 3, and it's a strong 3 for me because, again, I like both bands, and I like what this portrays. I like what this does to the brain.
I'm going to go with a 3 as well. I feel like I still just got mostly a Primitive Man album. That is not really a complaint, though. I like the vocal layering in here, especially like, man, 2 voices that should not be combined unless you want to be absolutely terrified, because they sound agonized and fucking monstrous. This album is huge. Like, my God, the fucking weight of this album is just fucking tremendous, like a collapsed fucking star. Frighteningly heavy to the point, I would say, rest in peace, happiness, rest in peace, ever hearing anything ever again if you see this live without earplugs. This is that fucking heavy. I really like the last track, Tunnels to God, which I figure that you have to go up if you believe that shit down. Sounds like you're gonna run into someone else. But I like that song. Like, the weird synthy build up to that, the atmosphere in there I think is really interesting, and how it transitions into, again, a surprisingly melodic song.
Melodic.
Yeah. I really like that. It actually showcases a completely different side for both bands. I would have liked to have heard more stuff that was akin to Full of Hell on here. Like, maybe just like a balance, like some like faster, almost like D-beat sections, or some heavier groovy sections. I would like to hear like some chunky riffs written with that ungodly tone.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the bass would do if you play that any faster. It's just gonna, well, break the fucking universe. Like, it's it's just insanely heavy. But that is this album in general. This is just a caustic listen. I mean, if you're a fan of Primitive Man, you're gonna love this. If you're a fan of Full of Hell, I think you're gonna like the overall ambiance, especially like with like their last album. But in terms of like the grind fits, they're kept to such a minimal that, I don't know, I was, again, kind of left wanting a little bit more on that side, because that would feel more like a truly collaborative effort.
Sure.
But yeah, if you like maybe Godflesh, if you like Portal, I guess, yeah, this is pretty damn close to that, except, you know, a fuck ton slower. This is really good for what it is. This is not something I would listen to all the time, but man, if I just want to be completely creeped out by sound and I don't want to listen to Portal, I would listen to this.
Full disclosure, I tried to get him to turn off the lights while we were listening to this. I recommended we listen to it in the dark, and nobody wanted to do that.
I need to be able to see and write. Maybe candlelight. Candlelight would be cool. But every time the fucking light flicker, you're like, oh, fucking goblins, demons, and ghosts and shit. I mean, it has that sort of vibe. But yeah, check this out. This is a truly haunting listen. I think Dwindling Will should be part of a horror movie score, or played in fucking haunted houses on a loop just to creep people the fuck out.
I agree.
It's literally perfect for that. But yeah, just check it out. It's it's fucking wild. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below, thrallsmetal.com. Our store is there. We will be getting back to loading it up after we get back from Denver Death Fest.
April 20th through the 22nd, of course, in Denver, Colorado, not Denver, Kansas, as some people might believe.
Is it Denver there?
It's been a first ever experience for Thralls of Metal, myself included. I figured, you know, with as many shows as I've been to over the years, I wondered how hard it would be to do it on our own accord, and got teamed up with some folks and managed to pull it off. 28 bands, 3 days, $60 for a 3-day pass. What the fuck are you doing? Come on out. Come hang with us. It's going to be a really good time. Thank you to all our sponsors. Thank you to the vendors and everybody that helped put this together. Thank you to the King Room for hosting us after we failed miserably to get a venue twice in a row. I never know what I'm going to say about the thing, because I'm still actually kind of shocked that it's occurring. I'm honored to be a part of it. I just didn't think we'd ever be here. Got some great bands on the bill: Necrotic, Wasteland, Pyrexia, just to name 2. So come on out. And yeah, we're gonna stock up on merch and all that shit. after we get back. It's just been a fairly time-consuming, brain-powered endeavor here. So we will get to you on merch and other cool things. I know there's a bunch of sweet shit coming for 2023. We've got a lot up our sleeve, and we're going to keep going with this. Without all of you guys, it wouldn't be possible. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has liked and subscribed and followed and chit-chatted with us. This is, again, Thralls of Metal is becoming bigger than I know this guy and I ever thought it would be. We couldn't do this without you. It's been an absolute blast. I won't do all the rambling here. I'm going to let Nick say some thank yous because that's what he does in an awkward manner.
Well, thank you for the pre-ramble. I will
You're welcome.
do the standard ramble, but I'm going to keep it short because he pretty much covered it there. Thank you all so much. It is amazing doing this, and we will catch you later.